Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to our series, a continued series on Deobandis. We've had a number of enlightening discussions over the past few weeks. Before I sort of leap into an introduction, if I could please just say salams to our panel. We've got two of the usual suspects here with us today. Sayyid Zadi, Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam. Kayfa haluk? How are you? Good?
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Sayyid. We also have Sayyid Ali. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid Ali.
Alaikum salam.
And we also have another member of the team, Sayyid Barer. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Welcome, welcome.
We've got 4 Sayyids on the panel. It's a bit dangerous, that is.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, exactly. The number 4 could sometimes be controversial, but here we're all good. Right, now, today, as I said, it's a continuation of our series on Deobandis. Initially, we probably were working on other topic areas, but once the dynamic duo from Bradford decided to have what we say in Urdu panga, they decided to do a special panga with us. We kind of left with no other choice but to place their Aqeedah under the microscope. We've done a number of shows on Deobandism. We've done 2 on the topic of prophethood. And inshallah ta'ala, today we will be discussing, whilst last week's show was on finality of prophethood, this week we will show their disrespect of the Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, from the text of one of their key, how would one say it? Godfather, forefather, whatever, Shah Ismael Shaheed. So we will be analyzing Tawheen, the disrespect of the Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, from the pen of Shah Ismael Shaheed. That will be the topic for today. So inshallah ta'ala, that will be our focus. We are conscious that people have said that the shows can go on a little bit in terms of length. I will try to steer a tight ship today. We are aware of the time and we will try to move it along, move the topic along. But Sayyid Ali, are you there?
Just about.
I was thinking, before we bring the topic in, and one thing is, after viewers, you have to say one thing. You know, there's always this saying that people say that, oh, well, the first part, it's like the first part of a film. Oh, episode 1 was good, but the second one wasn't very good. It's a bit like the Star Wars films, you know. But really, you know, alhamdulillah, we seem to be going from strength to strength, and this is going to be a real special gift for them. I think this will top up all our previous shows. Whilst I'm looking forward to that, something that people really do enjoy, we always manage to unzip one of the sort of aspects of dishonesty of the dynamic duo when they decided to go down to Hyde Park and film lots and lots of shows. I don't blame them. I mean, obviously, coming from Bradford, they came down and petrol and prices, etc. They thought, let's do a full show. So we just stand around in different poses and people ask us questions which are about as non-rigged as a wrestling match. So obviously they filmed all of this at once, and whilst they're doing that, we've already exposed a few of the bloopers that they've done. And I suppose we always start our show exposing their bloopers. So have we got any blooper today to discuss, Sayyid Ali?
Yeah, we do actually.
And are we ready to discuss that blooper?
Yeah, no problem. So if you just bear with me a minute, I'm going to bring up.
Okay, we will go into that blooper. Like I'm saying, just to recap, brothers and sisters, when they essentially, it was one day when they went to film Hyde Park and they filmed a number of shows to expose Shiism, not shows like, say, 5-minute snippets with their sort of followers with them. And we've already managed to do a couple of episodes where our intention has been to just show you examples of their dishonesty. We've already shown a few examples. We always dedicate one piece of dishonesty per show. And today we will present to you a text which they presented from Haqq al-Yaqeen, in which they tried to mock the Shia concept of Imam Mahdi alayhi salatu wasalam. So, Sayyid Ali, do you want to do the honors on this one?
Yeah, sure, no problem. If you just bear with me, I'm going to start screen sharing in a minute. Just hold on a second. Why do they have to make technology so difficult? Can you see my screen?
Yes, Sayyid. Yeah.
All right, sorry, just give me a second. Hassan Bari, I need you to take over for a second while I just quickly bring it up.
Okay, not a problem. I mean, I will, in terms of an introduction, essentially, and I've said this before, these guys, it's the same old regurgitated, recycled arguments which have been presented more or less from anti-Shia texts. And I'm not going to say those particularly old ones. The sort of texts that these guys are using are those which have been presented, particularly when there was a real push in the 80s and 90s in Pakistan with groups, Deobandi groups like 𝗧𝗧𝗦𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 Haqq al-Yaqeen, etc. And the dynamic duo have been inspired and more or less are regurgitating the same rubbish that has been appearing from the mouths of those scholars. So they're slain leaders such as Azam Tariq, Haq Nawaz Jangvi, who've quoted the same book, the same types of dishonesty. All these guys have done, have listened to their lectures and then decided to invest in books and present those same arguments. So really, that's why, honestly, there's nothing that they've said which I've sat there and thought, wow, I never heard that one before. I can even tell you which book they've quoted it from. It's that easy.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, Syed, over to you.
Okay, so if you just bear with me a minute, you should be able to see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Sayyid. Yeah.
Yeah. My screen. Can you see the Can you see the Mufti Sahib on the screen?
No, not yet.
Not yet. No.
No.
Oh, give me a second. Sorry. So I have to be very careful the way I do this. The reason being is in the past we've had people hijack our shows because the link was shared. So I'm just trying to make sure that we don't end up in the same sort of dilemma again. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, Sayyid.
Yeah, but no.
Is it coming through?
No, Maulana Sahib, Shaykhain are not coming up.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Sorry. Just give me a second. Sorry, Mr. Hassan Bari, I'm going to have to let you continue again. I'm going to try to sort out from my side. Apologies for the technical difficulties, unfortunately, which happens in these type of situations.
Absolutely. No. Well, that happens with live TV. I mean, you know, they always say, you know, live TV can bring up any sort of scenario. I've made sure I've put my kids to bed and thrown the cat out, so everything should be good on my side. Now, one thing that I certainly was thinking about on this topic area is, oh yes, it was actually, I was talking about their dishonesty and their influences. We know precisely what influences are. We know what precise books they're going to read, the precise argument. In fact, when I saw one of the Shaykhan, and it said the topic, the Shia Mahdi, I knew exactly, without even listening to his diatribe for 5 or 6 minutes, I knew exactly what text he was going to quote, exactly what argument he was going to present. And bingo, this is what he did. Finally. Okay, Sayyid, over to you.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. So I'm going to play you a clip now of the Sheikh. You should be able to see him now on the screen. Does it come through?
Yes, Sayyid. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah. So if the audio, just let me know if there's a problem with the audio or anything.
Unite the Ummah, inshallah. Another major difference. This is extremely major. How major is this? When the Mahdi comes, Haqqul Yaqeen. Haqqul Yaqeen, this is the book. He is going to appear standing in front of the sun without any clothes on. Sunbathing. Sunbathing. Allah, that's a bit more than sunbathing. That's a bit more than he's going to come and he will be standing in front of the sun without any clothes on. And our Mahdi, Imam Abu Dawud mentioned that when he comes, he will have 2 very, very sensible, nice pieces of cloth that will be covering his sadr, teaching modesty and teaching morality and adab and akhlaq to the people, that when you walk around, you should walk around yourself covered. And then Mahdi is going to be teaching what? Immorality and nudity and besharmi and behaya.
Okay, so that's it. That's the clip. That was the clip.
Yeah, say it. Yeah, went through it. Yeah.
So what
So
do
what's
you
your
what do
story?
you guys make of that clip?
Um,
Despite
look,
the fact that he blatantly lied and he actually misquoted, but I find it ironic that the people who talk about, you know, people being immodest and stuff, I think we demonstrated that in the last show when we presented numerous evidences from their books on a particular topic, which we still yet to hear a response back on.
say it. Say it. I remember them. I remember listening them when they were saying when we quote. I'm just paraphrasing what they said. When we quote, we always quote to the with the context, and we always make sure that we're not missing the stuff, right? And for
Mm.
the last, with different programs that we have went through, we have gone through their honesty level of honesty, right?
Yeah.
And this time it was really, really, really bad. This time the way they went through, and it actually exposes them. They say one thing, but the way they act is really different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Inshallah, we'll expose them. Inshallah, when we'll be replying them, our viewers would be going through with us like what intellectual dishonesty they have committed, right? And
Mm.
what suicide they have committed when we will be quoting their reference.
Yeah.
And when we will be quoting their reference, trust me, we won't be only reading like a passage of it and won't be reading anything else. We'll be reading full passages,
Yeah.
right? Making sure that none of the things are out of context. But really, it's another own goal,
Mm.
unfortunately.
To
Yeah.
say, just as a way of a background, so what this individual's done, he's quoted a book by Allama Majlisi called 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗏 al-Yaqeen, and 𝗦𝗨𝗕
Hakul Yaqeen, yeah.
al-Yaqeen contains narrations about the return of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. Of course, the show we're not going to dedicate it in terms of who the Mahdi is for us, and obviously the Sunni position of the Mahdi. And by the way, there's disagreements on this issue. Some Sunnis do, some earlier Sunni scholars did believe that Imam Zamana is actually born. 12th Imam is born. Okay. Other Sunnis, the majority, you could say, are still awaiting the Mahdi. But the way this individual presented the Mahdi from this particular passage of this book, which talks about the signs in the return of the Mahdi alayhi salam, as the Sayyid Zaydi mentioned, there was some extreme dishonesty. So what we're going to do now is we're going to present the passage which he quoted from, and we're going to discuss it. Me and Sayyid Zaydi, inshallah, we can discuss it. So Sayyid Zaydi, do you want to jump on, inshallah? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start screen sharing the document.
Yes, Sayyid. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Firstly, like the thing that I want to mention is that whenever they are quoting references, right? In old days, I would definitely would know that because getting the books within our own reach was really difficult. And at those times, these were the books that were printed mostly. So these were the books that the scholars would use in order to criticize Shia Islam. Okay, I get this, right? But now in this age of technology, when books are available online and they are available on PDF, it's really ironic to see them quoting a really secondary source, right? Allama Majlisi is a really later scholar, and whatever he has quoted is technically from the books that our previous scholars have written. So a lot of the things that he is quoting is from, let's suppose, from Kitab al-Amali للصدوق, عيون أخبار الرضا, and books like these, right? So these all books are those that were already written by the scholars, and he just quoting them. So Haqqul Yaqeen itself is a book in which Allama is mentioning about different topics. Obviously, we won't go into through what Haqqul Yaqeen is, but he also discussed about the topic of Raj'at, about the topic of how Imam Sahib al-Zaman would come in and how would he rule and what would be the things that will be happening when he would come back. While he's mentioning this, the quotation that Sheikh Saab has quoted actually says that uh, Nu'mani and Tusi have quoted this narration, and they have quoted from Imam, and Imam says this and that, right? So the original narration is in Kitab al-Ghaiba by Sheikh Tusi, and the other book that Allah Majlisi quoted is Kitab al-Ghaiba by Sheikh Nu'mani. So these are the two books that Majlisi is mentioning in Haqqul Yaqeen. So instead of quoting the Arabic text, the actual book, what does the Arabic text says, right? And what does it mention? He is just only relying on Haqqul Yaqeen, a really secondary source, right? Even the translation that that the Sheikh Saab has done is not correct, right? Now let me go through the narration. Let me go through like how authentic the narration is firstly, and secondly, does the matan of the hadith, or does the text of the hadith implies what Sheikh Saab wants to present? So let's go through it. The first book that I have in my with me is Kitab al-Ghaiba by Sheikh Tusi, by Sheikh Abu Ja'far al-Tusi. This book, page number 269, the narration starts as Sa'ad ibn Abdullah and al-Hasan ibn Ali al-Zaytuni wa Abdullah ibn Ja'far al-Himyari and Ahmad ibn Hilal al-Ibarta'i and al-Hasan ibn Mahbub and Abu al-Hasan al-Rufa alayhi salatu wassalam. So he says, في حديثي له طويل اختصرنا منه إلى الآخر. So the point that he mentioned, page 270, he says, والصوت الثالث يرون بدنا بارزا نحو عين الشمس هذا أمير المؤمنين إلى الآخر. So the translation that goes, and the word that implies that he wants to mention that as if like Imam Sahibu Zaman na'udhu billah would be naked, is يرون بدنا بارزا نحو عين الشمس. The badan bariz doesn't mean that he would be naked. It means that the body would be really obvious, like the body or the jasad of Imam Sahib al-Zaman or Imam Sahib al-Zaman would be really obvious, like everyone could see him. It doesn't mean that he would be naked, right? So the text, the translation of the text would be, the third call, they see a body rise towards the sun. This is the commander of the believers, and he will attack, sprint to perish the unjust. So here it's only talking about a body, which will be really obvious. It doesn't talk about someone being naked. Badan and baris, right? So here they're doing dishonesty by saying, oh, here it means that na'udhu billah, Imam Sahib al-Zaman would be naked. So that's one point. That's one point. So it's complete dishonesty when it comes to the translation of the hadith, right? That's one part. When Sheikh Nu'mani in his Kitab al-Ghaiba narrated this, as Kitab al-Ghaiba by Sheikh Ibn Abi Zaynab al-Nu'mani, page 186, and it says, وحدثنا محمد بن حمام قال حدثنا أحمد بن ما بن داث وعبد الله بن جعفر الحميري قال حدثنا أحمد بن حلال الهلال قال حدثنا الحسن بن محبوب الزداد قال لي رضا عليه السلام. He says والثالث, the relevant part is يرون يدا بارزا مع قرن الشمس. يدا, it doesn't mention badan, he says يدا, which means a hand. So the translation would go as the third call is, and the third is that people will see a protruding hand with the disk of the sun calling, Allah has sent so and so to destroy the unjust. So here you see it talks about the hand, right? So firstly, it itself is a debatable whether the correct, the tradition mentions badan or yad, that is a body or a hand. Even if it mentions it, it says barizan, which means really apparent, really obvious. It doesn't mean naked. Like I say, like Sayyid Ali, you're really obvious, I can see you. Does it mean that's na'udhu billah, like na'udhu billah is naked? Like it doesn't make sense. Like for such Sheikh Saab, you were really, really bariz at Hyde Park. So would Sheikh Saab mean that he would be naked? By Sheikh Saab theory, it would mean definitely he would be a naked guy. That's why I have used the word bariz for him. Right. So unfortunately, Sayyid Ali and Sadat, their intellectual honesty is really, really negative. It's not even zero. It's really negative. So you cannot expect good from them. Right. So the translation, this is the problem that is there in the translation of the hadith. So the translation doesn't say that he would be naked. The translation says it will be, the body will be really obvious. He'll be really obvious within the sight of the people. And the other text is that this is talking about the hand, not the body, because Allah Madlisi mentioned two sources, so we went back both the sources and we quoted what was there in the narration, right? Now the other problem with this is Sayyid, this narration, like as you have seen, the both reports contain Ahmad ibn Hilal al-Ibarta'i. This narrator is generally, as per the scholars, he's a weak narrator, right? He's termed da'if by the scholars. So let's see Sheikh Tusi, the one that mentions this narration in Kitab al-Ghaiba. He has a book called Al-Istabsar, really famous book. It's among the 4 famous book of Shia literature. He mentions in volume number 3, page number 28. So he mentions a hadith, and after mentioning the hadith, قال Sheikh Tusi says فلا يعارض الخبرين الأولين لأن راويه أحمد بن حلال وهو ضعيف فاسد المذهب لا يلتفت إلى حديثه فيما يختص بنقله. It's like, don't need to go into the translation, but he says there is no problem between 2 reports, because one of the narrator in one of the report is Ahmad ibn Halal al-Ibarta'i, and he's a da'if narrator, and his madhab, or the aqidah on which he was batil, wasn't right, and anything that he narrates specifically, and if he's alone in the chain, it must not be relied upon. So this is the same Sheikh Tusi that's narrating the hadith in Kitab al-Ghaiba, saying about Ahmad ibn Hilal in his book Al-Istabsar, volume 3, page number 28. And now, the irony is that Allama Majlisi, that mentions this narration, Haqqul Yaqeen, he has a book on Rijal, and the name of the book is Al-Wajiza. So in Al-Wajiza, page number 25, he talks about Ahmad ibn Halal, narrator number 144. He says Ahmad ibn Hilal al-Ibarta'i ضاد. He just had a symbol ضاد. ضاد means ضعيف. It was a رمز للتشخيص الرجال الضعفاء. So ضاد means he was ضعيف narrator as per Allah Majlisi too. So same Majlisi that's mentioning in Haqqul Yaqeen also said this narrator is unauthentic, is not to be relied upon. So you see, like, the reason I'm only quoting these 2 scholars is scholars are, one is among the mutaqaddimin and one is min al mutaakhirin. That's the first thing. Second reason I'm mentioning this is that Allama Majlisi mentions that in Haqqul Yaqeen. So that's why I wanted to reflect his view on the narrator than anyone else. So Sayyid, unfortunately, the narration is not authentic in terms of sanad, and the matan doesn't have the problem that Sheikh want to indicate, right? Now, even for the sake of the argument, even if we say okay, nakedness was referred, does it mean that nakedness was referred? And we have told that it's not the case. Even for the sake of the argument, even if we say that the nakedness is pointed upon, so does it mean that na'udhu billah, naqlu kufr nabasha kind of thing? Does it mean that Imam Sahib al-Zaman's private part would be exposed, as this Deobandi Maulana wants to portray? No. Sometimes nakedness would mean something other than the private parts. Look, there's a narration in Sunan Abi Dawood, volume number 4, page number 246, hadith number 3658. So the way narration goes is حدثنا مسدد حدثنا جعفر بن سليمان عن المعلى بن زياد عن العلاء بن بشير المزني عن أبي الصديق الناجي عن أبي سعيد الخدري قال جلست في عصابة من ضعفاء المهاجرين وإن, this is the relevant part, وإن بعضهم ليستتر ببعض من العراة وقارئ يقرأ علينا إذ جاء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقام علينا فلما قام رسول الله إلى الآخر. So the translation goes, Abu Sa'id Khudri says, I was sitting in the company of the poor members of the immigrants. He was sitting with Muhajirin. Some of them were sitting together because of nakedness. You see, the Arabic word that came is ليستتروا ببعض من العراة. Al-Ura. You know, in Farsi too, they say Uriyan. and in Urdu, this also refer in classical Urdu there was uryaniyat, which means nakedness, and in Arabic too they use the word ura, al-ura. So here it doesn't mean that the people that were sitting, the muhajirin that were sitting, they were literally, their private parts were exposed and they were kind of concealing their private parts by sitting together. Does it mean this? If this means it, then it's a major problem. Now, how can Rasulullah allow them to sit naked, like in the masjid area, or with him if they were naked? Doesn't make any sense, right? So, what does the Sharihin say about it? What does the people that went through the hadith, what is their opinion on it? Before I do this, this hadith, Allama Manawi in his book Kashf al-Manahij, in volume number 2, page number 241, 242 says, after quoting this hadith, he says, رواه أبو داود في العلم من حديث أبي سعيد الخدري وسنده جيد وله شواهد في صحيح مسلم وغيره. Allama Manawi says that the chain of the narration is jayyid, it's good. And there are some other narrations that are with this meaning in Sahih Muslim and other books too. So this narration is authentic too, just for the information of our viewers, right? The important part that I want to mention here is that what Mullah Ali Qari says here. Mullah Ali Qari in his famous book Al-Mirqat al-Mafatih, volume number 5, page number 78. Allama Mullah Ali Qari, as you know, is a famous Hanafi scholar, is a really esteemed scholar as per them. He says he's commenting upon the hadith, and this hadith is also mentioned in Mishkat. It's mentioned in Mishkat al-Masabih. That's why Allama Mullah Ali Qari is commenting on the hadith. He says, وَإِنَّ بَعْضَهُمْ لِيَسْتَثِرُوا بِبَعْضٍ مِنَ الْعُرَاءِ أي من أجله بضم العين وسكون الراء أي من كان ثوبه أقل من ثوب صاحبه كان يجلس خلف صاحبه تستترا به والجملة حالية والمراد العرى. This is a really important part. والمراد العري مما عدل عورة فالتستر لمكان المروءة لا تسمح بانكشاف ما لا يعتد كشفه. So I'm not going through full translation of it. We'll just quote the relevant part. He says the nakedness, al-ura, which is in the hadith, refer to areas other than private parts, right? So now just to sum up the points. Firstly, Maulana quoted the wrong translation, right? He quoted wrong translation of the riwayah. We quoted the right translation of it, quoting you the Arabic words and the translation. Secondly, the chain of the narration is da'if. There is a narrator, Ahmad ibn Hilal al-Ibarta'i, is a da'if narrator. Thirdly, Sunan Abi Dawood, same ura. We said for the sake of argument, even if we say, okay, the nakedness is mentioned there, the uryaniya is mentioned there, doesn't mean that na'udhu billah Imam Sahibul Zaman's naked parts will be exposed. Na'udhu billah. We said no, not necessarily. In Sunan Abi Dawud, there's a narration talking about the nakedness of the muhajirin. What does the commentator say about it? Mullah Ali Qari says that the nakedness doesn't mean the private parts. It means nakedness other than the private parts. That people would usually cover it, but because of lack of resources, they weren't able to cover it properly. So, Sayyid, it's upon you. Like this was a more tahqiqi reply.
Thank you very much. That was a very detailed and much appreciated response. It just demonstrates the constant dishonesty that we see from these individuals. Not only do they
can I add?
You want to add something?
Can I add something?
Sure, Sayyid, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add something. So about this narration, number one thing I just want to add about the narrator Ahmad bin Hilal al-Ibarta'i is he's not just only weak. If you read the Kashi, or for example Tusi or Saduq, and then Mutakhirin like Allama Hilli and Mu'assirin like Sayyid al-Khwi, all have given different opinions, like he's weak, he's fasul mazhab, fasul aqidah. But out of all the opinions, the most interested to me is when, and this is, by the way, is even quoted by the academics in Western universities, those who have written about the occultation of the Imam Sahib al-Zaman. They've written that his third Safir, Abul Qasim Hussain ibn Ruh, has cursed him and told a group of Shias to do bara from him. He was Sufi, Ghalib. There are different opinions on him. That's one opinion. Second thing about the matan of the narration. If you read in Tusi, look at the narration, that part, the real part. It says that وَالصَّوْتَ الثَّالِث يَرَوْنَ بَدْنًا بَرِيزًا نَحْوَ الْعَيْنِ الشَّمْسِ. Okay. Then after that he says هَذَا أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Yes. Now the problem is this narration is look a little bit distorted. Why? Because this narration say that has Amir al-Mu'minin. If this narration refers to Imam al-Hujjah, we have a narration, reliable narration from the Imam al-Jafar Sadiq Salam, that when a person comes to him and he called him Ya Amir al-Mu'minin, Imam taunted him and said that this title is only for Imam al-Salam, not for any of the Imam. And if you read all the...
Good point, Sayyid, I like that.
So if you read all the narration of Imam al-Hujjah, because this issue is very explicit. It is not an issue like Imam used to hide it, because it comes from the time of Rasulullah. Abbas's note is very clear. That's why Ibn Mansur al-Diwanki has named his son Mehdi, so that he can show to the people that he's actually the Mehdi. So this issue is very explicit. So Imam doesn't need to hide anything. In all of the narration you read, 99% of the narration says what? Al-Qaim, Al-Qaim. We don't find any narration except this Amir al-Mu'minin. Number one. That's it. And if you read the Hashia of that narration, it says, well, Sawta Salis is Mubtada, is subject. Haza Amir al-Mu'minin is khabar, means predicate. And this line, Yarawna Badnan, is Jumlatul Mu'tarila, means it is in parenthesis. It means that a narrator, when he narrated to another narrator, he's actually said his own words, not from the Imam. That's the one thing. So that's the problem with this narration. Now, the second part is if you go to the narration of Al-Ghaiba al-Nomani, Ibn Abi Zainab al-Nomani, that narration says like, wait, okay. That narration says, والثالث يرون يدا بارزة مع قرن الشمس ينادي على أن الله قد بعث فلانا على أهلك الظالمين. Now this narration comes from two chains. Tusi mentioned it from different chain. Nomani mentioned it from different chain. There's a difference of two narrators there. But the problem here is this part of third sound or voice the people hear. One part says Amir al-Mu'minin, another part says Fulanan. Why Fulan? The question is very relevant. Why Fulan? When it is very clear that it refers to Imam al-Hujjah, why you have to use the word Fulan? That's one thing. So that's why I think that the narration is distorted. And number third thing is, even if you say for argument's sake that, okay, this refers to Imam al-Hujjah and everything, the translation itself doesn't add up to call it like nakedness. How would you say it's nakedness? And how would you define this translation? This word, if you read the translation, it says that the third call, they see a body, and bariza actually means like prominent, like you see a body like it's shining or it's very prominent or radiant. It's not showing it's naked, because in Arabic you use the word naked aura or are rather than bariza. Bariza means it's very like it's radiant or remarkable. And then he says that he will assign, or he will rise up to the sun. So you want to say that the Imam al-Hujjah will fly towards the sun or what? So overall, this narration, as I have looked into it, it means that either Ahmed bin Halal has distorted, twisted some words in it, especially that part, the third voice part, or this narration maybe is weak, just like Brother Jay has said. And the most interesting point, you know what? They say that the Imam al-Hujjah will come naked. Okay, you have a narration in Bukhari about Prophet Musa alayhi salam. He, like, everyone knows that narration. Yeah, he put his clothes on the stone. He went for a bath. The stone ran with his clothes. He was running behind the stone, and he went there into his community, exposing himself completely naked, not just half naked. And they have this narration, and they authenticated it. Ibn Hajjaj Kalani said it's no problem.
Sayyid Burair, I think there are some points that Sayyid Ali would be mentioning, inshallah, about these things. Inshallah.
At the end of the day, look, the bottom line.
That's all I want to say. So the narration, the chain is weak, the person is accursed, not just weak, it's accursed. The narration seems distorted, and the Maulana gave a very secondary reference. By the way, Kul Yaqeen doesn't even mention the chain in it. So I don't know.
I just want to finish off on a quick point on this tradition. So as you can see, this particular narration in itself, it's disputed. There's difference of opinion. Most likely this tradition is weak. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, this narration, is an authentic narration. It needs to be established here that nakedness is your distorted, corrupt, vile understanding of it, because similar wording has appeared in your traditions about the Sahaba, and we can do a separate show where we can give you many examples where Sahaba, according to your logic, were naked. Nevertheless, I will show you clear, explicit traditions from your own books where your elders who you praised were living life practically naked, and you consider them to be amongst the saints of Allah. Okay, so I'm going to screen share now. Inshallah, you should be able to see my screen. Hassan Bari, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, fine.
So I'm going to present you some passages, so you're going to have to bear with me. So let's just start firstly from, I call it the tales of the naked Deobandi ancestors, because these individuals are obsessed. They're obsessed with nakedness. So let's give you some examples from your books about some of your elders who used to walk around naked. So this is taken from the book, to bring it up for you right now. It's from 𝗦𝗨𝗧𝗏𝗧, by the famous Ashraf Ali Thanvi, who doesn't require an introduction. And he gives a very interesting story about one of the respected elders for the Deobandis. And he mentions an interesting incident. He says, Khan Sahib said that in the state of Rampur, at the state of Nawab Yusuf Khan Sahib in Roshan Bagh, there was a majzoob. Majzoob meaning somebody, you could say, a crazy type of person. There was an individual, and the two guards were at service from Nawab Sahib. His name was Bir Shah. This majzoob was completely naked, but he was not majzoob in his sayings, and so on, and the story continues. I really request the viewers to go back and have a look at this incident of this particular Maulvi. Nevertheless, let me read it for you guys. It's quite an interesting story, because there's many things that come from this particular story. This majzoob was completely naked, but he was not a majzoob in sayings. And when he was speaking, his rule was whoever came to him was doing a request, and his rule was that if someone gave one grenade or one guava, 1 rupee or 1 paisa, he would refuse and say, no, bring me 2. So this individual always liked gifts in 2s. My uncle used to go to his services, and he used to take me with him. My uncle possessed a house at Shah Abad's door, and close to it. There was a Maulvi who had a very good creed and was a pious person. His name was Maulvi Ismail Sahib, and he had a brother whose name was Hafiz Ishaq. And I read some books from Hafiz Ishaq Sahib, but I do not remember its name. Yet through him, we had relations with Maulvi Ismail. Once Maulvi Ismail told my uncle, After the death of Bir Shah, his story with so he narrates the story of Bir Shah, and he says, I would not visit Majzub people, but contrary to my habit, I would go to the service of Bir Shah, and his habit was to make a request to whosoever was to visit him. But anyway, the story continues so forth. But this particular individual was considered amongst the one of the respected Deobandi elders who used to walk around naked. Okay, and this is a very interesting story. I really recommend the viewers to go back, pause it, and read this whole thing, because there's many things that actually come out from this particular story. And to be honest with you, I think we've taken up quite a bit of time. And the story continues. Chand Mian said, let me have a look. And I gave it to him, and he ate a piece of it. And just after eating it, he took off his clothes and went off naked. So this practice of nakedness is not something from us. It's from you guys. It was your elders who used to go around. It was your elders who used to go there to these, ludicrous, crazy, insane people. And they used to go and, ask the needs from them. They used to actually go to these people and pray directly to them and say, listen, I want a son. And these individuals used to, do all sorts of magic spells or whatever. And then all of a sudden, these people would be granted children. Nevertheless, I don't want to go any further into this particular story, but you can see that this account of nakedness, it's one from your elders, not ours. Okay, and there's a reference for you guys. You can always go back and have a read of it. It's all there. It's all there for you guys to go back and have a read. Okay, so again, let's go to another story about some of your elders. Okay, there was, again, this is another account of some of your elders. And it's the book's called The Life and Miracles of Hazrat Sheikh Musaji, and the translations by Maulana Abdul Shakur Lakhnawi. This is the book. It's available in PDF. There's the link. And again, look what it says. Some of the fuqara, the pious mendicants, gave glad tidings of Hazrat becoming pious saint even before his birth. For instance, one majzub, one lost divine mediation by the name of Nangi Mai, right? I mean, who used to stay naked because his clothes would burn away. So again, this obsession you have for naked people, have you ever considered about your forefathers who used to practically walk around naked, who, when they used to wear their clothes used to burn away? So what would you say about these people? I dare you to do a show on these individuals and tell us their life stories. And then I'd like you to say astaghfirullah on what they used to do. And let me just sum it up for one more story from you guys. And
I also say, Thanvi Sahib didn't say astaghfirullah, did he, at any point?
He actually attested to the story from in Arwah. He actually attested. He goes, yeah, the story's true. This is another individual. This, look, okay. So Muhammad Rullah Naqshbandi, he goes, in Deoband, there was an elder named Maulana Fariduddin, and in his time there was a Majzuba. She used to go around naked. So your men and your women of your society, your elders, they were the ones who used to go around naked. They were the ones who used to wear clothes, and their clothes used to burn away into ashes. So again, this is from your books. There's a reference, and by all means, go back, have a read. So I'm just going to bring up the page, and the story can be found here, highlighted in yellow. So yeah, I mean, Hassan Bari, what can you say about these people? Hassan Bari?
It's just shocking. You know what it is? They always want to indict us to say, oh, these are the guys that blaspheme, the Prophet, and they are the blasphemers on all aspects of Islam. And then they quoted this narration of Imam Zamana from Haqq al-Yaqeen.
I just want to give them one more reference as a gift to go away, for them to reflect on.
Yeah, why not? Let them reflect.
Because it seems as if these guys don't read their own books. Okay, so this is another interesting story of one of the elders, okay? And this is from Malfuzat Hakim al-Ummat, okay? And the story is as follows. Abdur Rahman Khan, the proprietor of Nizami Press, came to meet him, i.e. the uncle of Ashraf Ali Thanvi. So we're talking about the uncle of Ashraf Ali Thanvi. And he was so impressed by his lectures on realities and wisdom. He therefore requested him to give a public lecture on the subject so that all the Muslims could benefit. The maternal uncle of Thanvi, the founder of the present day, obviously Deobandi movement, or one of the founders, gave a very strange answer. He said, Khan Sahib, what have I got to do with lecturing? In other words, why do you want me to do it? But when Khan Sahib continued to insist upon it, then he could oblige him only on one condition. So the uncle of Ashraf Ali Thanvi had a condition, okay? Now listen to his condition. Abdul Rahman was seriously an elderly man. So this guy was an old man, the poor guy. You know, most people wouldn't even, if an old man come to you and say, listen, we want you to do a lecture for us, especially something on religion, most people would agree to it, right? They wouldn't really have some may have demands, some may not have demands. But let's have a look at what Ashraf Ali Thanvi's uncle's demands were. He said he wondered what such an arrangement could be. As in this individual, Abdul Rahman Khan, he wondered what it could be. So eagerly he asked him about the arrangement which wanted to be made. Now look at these words very carefully, okay? The maternal uncle of Thanvi said that he should go to the marketplace naked in nude state, with one man in front stretching his penis and the other from behind putting his finger in his anus, and a multitude of boys shouting, here is the pimp, here is the pimp. And then he would give a lecture on the realities of wisdom. So this is from Malfuzat Hakim al-Ummah 49, page 212. Let me just bring the scan up before you do a takbir, or before you say astaghfirullah. But here's the narration. How dare you talk about Imam al-Zaman in such words, when your own elders used to have requests for boys to come and hold their penis and finger their anus? How dare you? Do you not have no shame? Do you not read your books? I dare you to refute these references. If you consider these references to be a lie, I challenge you to do a video and expose this. Say the story is a lie, and we condemn this individual who wrote this story. But you never will. Do you know why? Because it was your elders who wrote these stories. It was your elders who used to walk around naked. It was your elders who had these funky requests, which I swear to God, if the society was, imagine if non-Muslims would find out what your elders were like. I'm done. I've rested my case. It's these guys who are obsessed with people being naked.
Sayyid. The problem is that when you have so many stories in your own literature, right, then they are bound to attack us in order to make sure that we don't reply them back, and we are more involved in answering the quotes only, without going what's there in their books and what filth is in their book, because they know what if they don't do this, then Shias would come in and they would know, okay, what are those resources, and they would be exposing them everywhere. So in order to make sure that Shias don't attack us, they might just come up with this theory and with this approach, so that people won't know what's in their books.
Yeah, absolutely.
The ironic.
I just find it amazing that they try to take this moral high ground. These moralistic individuals, wagging their tongue, wagging their finger at us, when it's your fingers that are being stuck up other people's anuses in your books. Pathetic people.
In Hyde Park.
By the way, sorry, Syed. I think we need to dedicate a whole show on their type of the secret type of behavior that these people they used to do behind doors. Like more into the love stories about their elders, and other stories related to having the penis held and the anus.
Sayyid, I have a suggestion. I'm not really sure if it's allowed in UK or not. If two of these sheikhans go, and the sheikhan would say, listen to the Urdu, I'm reading the text. ये सुनकर बहुत इश्तियाक के साथ पूछा कि हजरत वो तरीक़े ख़ास क्या है. Mamu Saab बोला. Mamu Saab की जगह, like instead of Mamu Saab, let's put one sheikh in it. Sheikh, any sheikh, right? Sheikh Ji. So one of the sheikh, the sheikhan from Hyde Park, one of the sheikh, right? Sheikh साहब बोले कि मैं बिल्कुल नंगा होकर बाजार में होकर कि मैं बिल्कुल नंगा होकर बाजार में होकर निकलूं, इस तरह के एक शख्स तो आगे से मेरे उज़ूए तनासुल को पकड़ कर खींचे. I think that would be the other sheikh that would be holding it. There are two sheikhs, right? और दूसरा पीछे से उंगली करे, साथ में लड़कों की फौज हो और वो ये शोर मचाते जाएं. I'm not reading the rest part. It's such a filth. So we need the third person. Do you know who would be the third person in Hyde Park? And I'm not really sure if it's in UK it's allowed to go like this. Hassan bhai, do you think it's allowed in UK to go like this in Hyde Park?
I don't know. This is some sort of Deobandi style of ringer roses. But what can I say? It really is. Unbelievable.
So,
Unbelievable. Sayyid Murad, do you have any comment?
well, what can I say? When Sayyid Ali was actually reading all these texts, I was just laughing so badly.
What can you say? These people are absolutely.
There's nothing to say. You were just stubborn. You just dumbfounded that what they are attacking by Imam al-Hujjah, and from a secondary source, and while their own ancestors used to do the same thing, because they actually focus on their own sect. They don't consider Islam as a whole. They just focus on their own sect. Hence, there are so many problems with the Deobandis and fake, usul, everything, and even their behavior and their ethics. Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely, Sayyid. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's the problem. You can go to India and Pakistan, you can look at that. It's very clear, cut clear. And by the way, I have spent three semesters of my engineering course with Deobandis. So I know, so I don't want to reveal too much.
Okay, Hassan Bahari, I think we're taking a lot of time up on that one.
Thank you very much. All we must stress to the Sheikhan, you really need to look at your own books before, taking that moral high ground. There are many examples of it. The conclusion is simple. You produced a text. It was wrong. It was a false narrative that you used. We've exposed that, and now we've turned the tables on you.
Now authentically proven from your books that this is a practice amongst
exactly. If you want to talk about nakedness and being sexually fondled in the street whilst walking down the road, we need to look no further than the text of the Deobandis. And believe me, Sayyid, it's like we've said before, if we open up your books of fiqh and the Sheikhan know about your condition of reading Salat, don't try it with us, because there's plenty of nudity in that as well. Okay, shall we I think we should go on to the next topic.
Let's crack on to the next topic.
Okay, cracking on to the next topic. Thank you very much, all of you Sayyids, for your assistance on the first part. We essentially now are leading into the next topic, which is really the topic of discussion for today. We are going to be discussing the actual book itself, Taqwiyat al-Iman, penned by the very famous scholar Shah Ismael Shaheed.
Sorry, just on a quick note, could you just give us a background in terms of who Shah Ismael Shaheed was?
Oh, okay, yes, I'll provide you the background on Shah Ismael Shaheed as well. He was actually from a family of scholars. His father, grandfather, was none other than Shah al-Muhaddis Shah Waliullah Dehlawi, who wrote many books on Islam. Was very, very anti-Shia. He wrote 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗓𝗦𝗧𝗏, which was a book on proving the caliphate of the earlier caliphs, and he always had opportunities to dig at Shias. And obviously his son al-Muhaddis Shah Abdulaziz Dehlawi, what can you say, who penned the 𝗙𝗢𝗧 Nashri. So we're talking about, in terms of pedigree, he was an individual from a scholarly family, and along comes Shah Ismael Shaheed again, but there's a departure there, whereas certainly his elders were more Sufi inclined. Shah Ismael Shaheed was very much more influenced by the Salafi type of thinking, and he penned a book called Taqwiyat al-Iman, which is essentially, yeah.
He visited, I think he went for Hajj or something, and then he counted some Salafis or Wahhabis at the time, and then
absolutely. In fact, you know what I'll do is let me just read from a text itself. Say, if you could click on the link. This is for Darul Uloom Deoband's own link, question and answers on Shah Ismael Shaheed. Do you have that? Are we there? Perfect. Thank you, Sayyid. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly read from the link. So, sorry, pardon me. I'm just reading from the text itself. This is from the Deobandi's own breakdown of the text itself. So, Shah Ismael Shaheed. This is from the link Darul Uloom Deobandi website. Shah Ismael Shaheed was the grandson of Hazrat Shah Waliullah Muhaddis Dehlvi. He was the inheritor of knowledge and spirituality of the family of Shah Waliullah. He was the flag bearer in his call towards religion, Tawheed and Sunnah. He was the representative of the Al-Sunnah and had revolutionary personality. He was an authentic scholar. His famous book, Taqwiyat al-Iman, which means strengthening the faith, is authentic and very useful. It is a complete document against grave worshipping, shirk, and innovations that were prevalent in society. Due to this book, uncountable people have gave up darkness of shirk and innovation to come to light of Tawheed and Sunnah. So remember something. This book is often been regarded as you've got Ibn Wahab's book on Tawheed, and this is very much regarded as almost like a Indian subcontinent version of that book. So his analysis of society at the time, and essentially going out and condemning practices amongst the people of the Indian subcontinent. Sayyid Ali, are you there? Next topic, next reference, please. Rashid Ahmad Gangohi. Do we have it?
Sayyid, you carry on. It's coming through.
Okay. Yes. Sayyid Zadi, I've just totally forgotten. I made a mistake there. What was the name of Ibn Wahab's famous book? Was it Tawheed? Kitab al-Tawheed. Sorry, I didn't want to make a mistake and then be corrected, by some video saying, "Oh, I don't know the name." Yeah, it was Kitab al-Tawheed. Apologies for that. Okay, so now we're going to go to the text of Gangohi Saab on what's he actually saying on this as well. Let me quote to you Gangohi Saab. The book Taqwiyat al-Iman, and this is from Fatwa Rashidiyah, page 224, published by Darul Irshad, Karachi. The book Taqwiyat al-Iman is fantastic and an honest book. This book is good in strengthening and purifying the faith. The meaning of the entire Quran and Hadith is therein, and the writer of this book is an accepted personality. So that's the importance of the book in the eyes of two Deobandi ulama. Very, very. And I could produce you, if you look at it, it's been translated by Salafis in the UK into English. And that publishing house has a very, very glowing endorsement of Shah Ismael Shaheed. Sayyid Zadi, can you expand a bit further, please, to the next part of the topic?
Yes, Sayyid. So, Taqwiyat.
You've cut out.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, Sayyid. So sorry. There was a bit disconnection here. Taqwiyatul Iman is used as a textbook, you would say, for the topic of Tawheed. Since it's used as a textbook for topic of Tawheed and against shirk, as whatever the term is as shirk, it is used as a book that is basically a really famous book, and it has been printed so many times and by so many different publications, right, that there is no difference of opinion among the people that it had a tremendous impact on the life of the people, right? But while Shah Ismail was mentioning the Tawheed, whatever Tawheed he had in his mind, what it did was that it led him in many occasions in his book saying really stupid things about prophets, about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sometimes with the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen, sometimes for prophets in general, right? And it's a really small booklet, like the one that I have with me in Urdu. It's not more than 100 pages. It's like roughly around 100 pages, less than 100 pages, I would say. So it's a really small booklet. And even in that small booklet, there are so many disturbing things out of there. Yani, proving Tawheed is considered as something, the Tawheed can only be proven if there is some sort of belittling for the prophets, if there will be some sort of belittling for the awliya, It will be some sort of belittling for the companions and for the people. That's the only way they can prove their tawheed. Well, if you see our tawheed, it reflects the grandeur and the lofty status of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, of Anbiya alayhimus salam. So our tawheed is saving the awliya, is saving the prophets, is saving the blessed personalities. Their tawheed is making tawheen, is making really crude judgment and crude remarks about prophets, awliya, and blessed people. So this will be our topic that we'll be covering today, and we'll be quoting you different passages from Taqwiyatul Iman that belittles prophet, that belittle awliya and other personalities. So Sayyid, should I quote the first passage, or you guys have something to say on it
I
right now?
know. I want to present something actually, which I've got. It's quite an
Yeah,
interesting.
Sayyid.
It's quite an interesting passage, and it was by 𝗧𝗨𝗦𝗕𝗦𝗙𝗎𝗍, because what we have to understand is that this book, when it was published at its time, it was a very controversial book, and later this book kind of, you know, set the stones for, the Deobandi type of belief system, you could say. They, as Sayyid Hassan Bahari demonstrated from the Deobandi website, they really, not only did they respect this individual, but they also praised his book and the parts of the book. Sorry, Sayyid, your microphone, can you put mute a second?
Yeah, Sayyid.
Okay, so I just want to present a very interesting passage from 𝗧𝗨𝗦𝗕𝗦𝗙𝗎𝗍, and it's from 𝗙𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 as well, again, page 331, 334, story number 441. And he says, Mawlvi Ismail wrote Taqwiyatul Iman foremost in Arabic. So first the book was written in Arabic, then it was written in Urdu. And later he called a close group of his supporters and he presented it to them. And he said, I wrote this book and I know that it contains some sharp words and belittling in reference, and changed shirk into minor shirk. So he changed minor shirk into major shirk. And there will be repercussions for that. There will be discord as a result of this. But after a few days of quarreling and fighting amongst the Muslims and arguing, matters will settle down, or matters will die down. Okay? And this is from 𝗧𝗨𝗦𝗕𝗦𝗙𝗎𝗍. It's quite, I find this passage very interesting because it shows that even, Mawlvi Ismail Dehlawi, he knew himself that this book, that the words that he used, and the way he changed, minor shirk into major shirk, that there would be repercussions for it. Okay, and he was under the impression that, even after this book was published, that, the fighting will, maybe die down after a few days or weeks or months or whatever. But the reality is Mawlvi Ismail was wrong, because the fact of the matter is, till today, Muslims have problems with this book. Well, except, of course, if you're a Deobandi or if you're a Salafi, of course, it's a different story. But generally, the majority of Muslims have problems with this book. And till today, people give lectures against it. Many books were written in refutation of it. So I'll pass on to you, Sayyid Zadi, inshallah, and you can continue.
Sayyid, the irony is that the Fatawa Rashidiya that Rashid Ahmad Gangohi says, he says, Kitab Taqwiyatul Iman nihayat umda aur sachi kitab aur mawjub quwwat wa islah imani quwwat wa islah iman ki hai aur Quran wa hadith ka matlab isme hai. Iska muallif ek maqbool banda hai. So think about it, like Maulana Gangohi is saying that all Quran, like the meaning of Quran and hadith is there in the book. So it just tells you like how revered this book is in the eyes of Deobandi specifically, right? And like what, as you quoted, like what Shah Ismail has said about his own book, right? He knows that he had made some errors, right? Even then, Rashid Ahmad Gangohi is praising that book. So our problem is not, yeah, there are some authors that would write some weird stuff, and obviously people would just say, okay, this was his isolated opinion, and we don't believe in it. But if you would give these big titles, like the Quran and Hadith is in this book, so what would you expect from a lay person? They would treat it as a Bible, then, like as something which is really revered and respected, and then they would be getting accustomed with all the tawheen, all the bad things that are said about prophets, if they're not being told about, if they're not being reflected about the things that are being written there. So without delaying further, the first quote that I would be quoting is from Taqwiyat al-Iman, page number 52. And the quote says, so inshallah, Sayyid Hassan, you there with me, yeah? Sayyid Hassan.
Yes, Sayyid, I'm there with you.
Yeah, Sayyid, so I need you to read in English and I'll read it in Urdu, right?
Oh, okay, fine. Bear with me a sec.
So the first thing that he mentioned is the status of a prophet like a big brother. So the quote is on page number 52. It says, इस हदीस से मालूम हुआ कि औलिया व अंबिया और इमाम व इमामज़ादे, पीर व शहीद, यानी जितने अल्लाह के मुकर्रब बंदे हैं वो सब इंसान ही हैं. They're only human beings. और बंदे आजिज और हमारे भाई, मगर अल्लाह ने इनको बढ़ाई दी है, वो बड़े भाई हुए. Sayyid, go through the translation, please.
My word. Okay. Let me just apologies, my system's gone a bit slow. Give me a second, Sayyid. I'll just get the text up again. Sorry about this. Sayyid, could you just read the last line again, please? Sorry, I missed the last line.
Do you want me to do it? Do you want me to do it quickly while you sort yourself out?
Yeah, please. Sorry about that. My text has gone a bit.
Sayyid Zaidi presented, and it was basically saying that Shah Ismail Dehlawi said, all human beings are brothers mutually. The one who's very pious is like an elder brother. So respect him like a big brother, while the Lord of all is God, Allah. He alone must be worshipped. Say, do you want me to read the whole thing?
Go for it.
Yes, say it. Go for it.
All apostles and pious men, the imams, the peers, the martyrs, as well as those human beings nearest to God, are his humble servants and our brothers. The difference is they were made great by Allah, and they are our big brothers, and we placed under their common, and we are their juniors. So we should respect them as human beings, not as Allah.
Wow.
So, what can you say about this passage?
Say it. The thing that the Urdu text, the thing that it mentioned is that, और इनको बढ़ाई दी है वो बड़े भाई हुए. Like, this is the problem that I have. Like, how can you say, can you call, like, I asked all the Deobandis that are listening to it, and all the Salafis too, because Salafis have great respect, as Sayyid mentioned too, about this book. Would you call Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as your big brother? As like a really, yeah, they would. Oh, my big brother says sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as they say, without the wa alihi. Our big brother said. And how disrespectful it is. What do you call your father as big brother?
Well, you know what? Even culturally, it's true. You wouldn't.
The Holy Quran says that the Prophet is not the father of any of you men, but you're ready to call him your brothers. MashaAllah.
Exactly. Absolutely. You know, it's true. There is respect as well. You're right. In a community, you wouldn't call someone who's an elder your brother. You know, in our communities, you would say uncle or some sort of more respectful sir or something, and they essentially they're lowering the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family to just the status of a bada bhai.
Say that. That's the point. That's the point. Like, we still don't have big problem with the word brother, right? The problem is that respecting them as a big brother. This is the problem that I have.
Absolutely.
This is like the respect is equals to a respect given to a big brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the problem that we have. We just don't have problem like, don't quote us, okay, this our brother is in this thing. No. Would you respect Prophet as your big brother only or not?
Exactly. Absolutely. That is exactly what our issue is.
the thing is, look, I think,
Yeah.
look, we are Ummati, okay? He's the Nabi, yeah? We are sinners. He's Masoom, he's pure, yeah? You know, we are believers, inshallah, and he's like obviously the source of Iman. So the difference is huge, you know, to even claim that. You know, for example, if somebody, you know, calls his wife his mother, then some say that, you know, his nikah becomes void, right? But for God's sake, you calling the Prophet your brother, and then how can you expect your Iman not to be nullified?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it really, really is a shocking text. It's so disrespectful.
Okay.
In the Quran,
Sorry, Sayyid, go ahead.
even the Quran, Allah says that do not raise your voice above the Prophet, or don't call him Ra'ina, just unsirna, like in Surah Baqarah, verse 104. So I don't know how can someone say that Rasulullah is equivalent to a big brother to me. It's highly disrespectful. You can't even call your first Khalif or the second one like a big brother.
It's true.
The status of the Rasulullah. Can they call it?
It's true. Yeah, you're right.
Hold on, but the Shias are the ones who equate the Imams with prophets. But then you're the ones calling the Prophet a brother.
Exactly. That's the thing, Sayyid. One of the objections is, you know, you elevate your Imams to the status of prophets. That's one of the Deobandi Dio themselves raised this Hyde Park, and obviously they've not bothered looking at the fact that we've addressed it in our earlier Google Hangout shows. In any case, the fact of the matter is you guys have lowered the rank of the Prophet so low that he is nothing but a big brother, like the sort of brother that you get in a mosque. How are you, brother? How are you, brother? So he's on equal rank to any Ummati.
The sort of brother you made at Ghadeer as well.
Absolutely, the same. Yep. He was a matey.
Let's go to the next part.
Okay, say Zadi, the next text, please.
So the next text is in page number 53. Now, this is even more disrespectful, I would say. Or not page 53, it's in page number 88. It says that he quotes a hadith. And believe me, the hadith doesn't talk about the comment now that he is going to do. He says, यानी मैं भी एक दिन मर के मिट्टी में मिलने वाला हूँ तो कब सजदे के लायक हूँ सजदा तो उसी पाक ज़ात को है कि ना मरे कभी.
Oh my
Now
word.
it says यानी मैं भी एक दिन मर कर मिट्टी में मिलने वाला हूँ मर कर मिट्टी में मिलने वाला हूँ.
Okay, I'll try. The translation. I will translate it for you. So the hadith that he's quoted, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, stated, I too shall die one day and turn into dust. And how can I be worthy of prostration? Sajda, prostration, can be done to the one being who can never die. Just think about how low he's presented the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family in this text. Just in a matter of a few lines, he's you know, the comparison is what shocks you. You know, you can give all sorts of comparisons. This is how low he's presented the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family. Sadat, anybody want to open up and discuss this further, this text?
That's the point, Sayyid. Because this accusation he made against the Holy Prophet, and peace and blessings be upon him, is a complete lie. This individual, there's a hadith, I believe, in Bukhari, where the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and his family said, anybody who intends lies upon me had reserved himself a seat in hellfire.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I recall, there's actually a tradition in Mishkat that says that the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has actually forbidden the earth to consume the body of prophets. Okay, so there's actually a tradition in Mishkat Sharif that says that the prophets, they don't basically turn into dust, astaghfirullah. And there's many traditions that talk about the prophets being alive in the grave, etc., etc. But look at this blasphemy. Look at this disrespect. You know, okay, on one hand, you're trying to prove the mighty status of God. No one denies that. But then you belittle the personality of the Holy Prophet to such a level that, you know, it's just shocking. To brothers and dust.
Exactly.
I think Sayyid. What I would say is that same works if they are said to be for caliphs. I should ask Salafis and Deobandis, is that respectful for the caliphs or not? Should I say like Umar bhi ek din matti mein mil jayega,
Yeah.
मर के मट्टी में मिल जाएगा, और अबू बकर भी एक दिन मर के मट्टी में मिल जाएगा.
Yeah.
I think it's also contrary to Quran. You know, no one can say that we die in the way of Allah like Rasul. And the Quran says, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِندَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. Yes, they reckon not those who are killed in the Allah way. And read the next verse after that. فَرِحِينَ بِمَا آتَيْهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Rejoicing in what Allah has given them out of His own grace. It means Allah has already established or asserted their position. So you are trying to establish that Rasulullah say that I will going to become dust, so don't prostrate and everything. By the way, no Muslim do that. At the same time also, no Sahaba used to do that. And here Allah says that He used to assert their position.
MashaAllah said.
And it's for martyrs, not for prophet. Prophets he has a maqam al-mahmud. You can't bring from maqam al-mahmud and the maqam al-shifa to just so like he will turn to dust like any normal human being. It's
I think
Sayyid,
what I get is that the things that you are mentioning is really to the point. But I'm really afraid that if I would be bringing more quotes, what would you be able to say that? Because they were so disrespectful. And truly, like all the merits that you are mentioning, I think none of the Muslim would have any problem with it. Thing is that we are just showing the other side of the picture, which is like I sometimes I feel even we don't have to give a dalil in order to substantiate the otherwise. Like what things should we present against this saying that Prophet would die and would be like in the dust, would be in the dust? Like, is there anything Quran or Hadith should I quote in order to prove otherwise? Because this statement is such blasphemous and such a crude statement that we just don't have any other thing to say.
Why do they condemn Salman Rushdie when you've got the satanic verses right in front of you?
Yeah, it's just that like say it seriously. Quoting Quran and Hadith sometimes I feel it's not enough. Like it shouldn't be quoted, I would say, because these statements are so bad that what would we quote even if you're quoting Quran and Hadith? Like, should we say that no, that the Quran mentions this and the Hadith mentions this if there is a really blasphemous statement made by a person? Leave it upon the viewers to discover and to research themselves.
They talk about the honor and defending the Sahaba, when in reality, when they talk about the Sahaba, they only mean a selected few people. They don't talk about collectively. They're only talking about a certain group of them. Yeah, but
exactly,
if you're not concerned about defending the honor of the Sahaba, in reality, you're not defending the honor of anyone except your own ignorance and your worship. Because what you're doing is you personality worshipping. You've created these personalities and made idols of them, but at the same time, you're willing to attack them. The individual who was set as a role model to the whole of mankind, you've belittled him to such a status that you've lowered him to the level of a brother and dust. Allahu Akbar.
Say we should go for the third. We should go for the third one.
Okay, please do. Carry on.
So Taqwiyat al-Iman, page number 20 now. It says, Shah Ismail Dehlawi says, और ये यकीन जान लेना चाहिए कि हर मखलूक छोटा हो या बड़ा वो अल्लाह के आगे चमार से भी जलील है. चमार से भी जलील है. You know what is chamar? Chamar is a word used in Urdu. Chamar means like it is used for something really downgraded. Someone like really like it is used as a really it's more like of an abuse word, right? Like saying someone is really down to the earth person. He is someone that shouldn't be respected. They are usually called chamar in Urdu. Inshallah, Sayyid will go through the translation.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on.
But I just want to present chamar. What chamar means from Furuzul Lughat.
You know what it means? I think it's like the lowest of the low, isn't it?
Lowest of the low. So Furuzul Lughat I have in front of me. It's page number 535. It says chamar, चमड़ा बनाने वाला, मोची, जूतियां सीने या गांठने वाला, and it also means kamina, safla, or niche. Like
So,
those are some hard Urdu words, so I just don't want to translate because
so basically,
of
like you get in the Hindu culture, you get Shudras, isn't it? What's that term? Said
yeah,
Bra, the
shudder,
untouchables. It's like that, is it? The lowest of the
untouchable,
lowest.
untouchable. Said, can you go through the English translation,
Yes,
please, in page
let me
20?
read the text.
Please go through the
So
English translation, please. Yeah.
we must understand, listen to it carefully. We must understand that anyone, whether one of the most smallest creatures or a large one, eminent one, it does not carry the status of even a shoemaker. Subhanallah. I mean, just, again, we've probably used a more respectful terminology, shoemaker. I mean, really, it is like a shudder. I mean, that's how low the text is there. What can you say? This is the example that is being provided here. Sayyid, Sayyid Zadi, do you want to expand on that a bit more?
Sayyid, like I'm really lost with the words, honestly. Chamar, as you said, like they have the lowest and the lowest of the caste in Hindu, where they won't even eat anything from the house of a chamar.
Yeah.
Where they would even don't touch the chamar because they would say if we would touch chamar, it would just bring some bad omen to us.
Correct.
So
yeah.
chamar is like the lowest of the social status on the earth.
Yeah.
Is known as chamar, right? And here the guy is saying that the biggest, the bade makhlook ho ya choti makhlook, the most eminent creature or the smallest of creature, that does not even carry the status of a chamar. You want to say that Rasulullah na'udhu billah was worse than a chamar?
I know, it really is a shocking text. Sayyid Burar, any thoughts?
Words. Yeah, go ahead.
Sayyid Burar?
Well, chamar, actually chamar or chamar are the people who actually used to work like in sewers, or they means the very low job you can think possible of. Like they used to work in sewer, no one is bothered to go around their like streets and around their colonies. So it's a very disrespectful. What else you can say? You have seen Big Brother and then this and then this. I don't know how much lowly it will go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the way I see it is that the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, is the perfection of Allah's attributes. You understand? Yeah. And obviously we know from his that he was unique. He was a very unique individual. And as Sayyid Burer mentioned, this position or this status was given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I believe, I think even in Surah Munafiqun, I think verse 4, which ironically makes you think whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had these type of people in mind when he revealed this verse. It mentions that, the righteous servants of Allah, they've been given a rank by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. Okay? So why, out of all the words you could have, the thing is, you don't even need to give, why give the Prophet's example? Why give the Prophet, peace and blessings, example there? Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, this said...
Actually, what he was actually going against Allah himself. He was trying to prove that people used to prostrate to the Prophet, yes?
Yeah.
While there was no Sahabi, we have no narration that says that. But when even Allah has himself given the authoritative position to the Rasulullah. So you are trying to distort, or you're trying to contradict Allah. Oh, Allah has given the position, but we will bring him down. So, and what you are trying to do, you are trying to prove the shirk and other things. So I don't even know. It's so contradictory.
Well, it's definitely contradictory, especially when we look at history. Where is it from the first? You consider the two generations after the Prophet to be the best of generations, don't you? Where did they ever use such terminologies to describe the Holy Prophet, peace? But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, I change this with 𝗙𝗢𝗧𝗏 Manootvi's name, or Ashraf Ali Thanvi's name, or Gangoi's name, or whoever, Abu Bakr, Umar, Usman, whatever. Let's say if I replaced it and said, we must understand anyone, or this case, 𝗙𝗢𝗏 Manootvi, be it the smallest creature or eminent, in your eyes, you probably considered your elders who used to walk around naked to be your eminent individuals. Yeah. He does not even carry the status of a shoemaker. Now, I'm telling you, if you're not offended by the words I've said, which I'm sure you are, and my intention is not to offend you here, rather to show you inconsistency that you are willing to have these words attributed to the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, but then your heart boils, your blood boils when it's mentioned about your own elders. So have some shame, repent, reject these books like these Deobandi websites we presented from, you consider to be a most authentic book, established from Quran and Sunnah, etc., etc. These are clear-cut statements of blasphemy, and you should distance yourself from this book. Until you distance yourself from these books and these words and statements, how can you accept to achieve Muslim unity? We, followers of the Ahlul Bayt Islam, we're never against unity. You understand? But yes, if you're going to have these type of beliefs, then of course we're going to have problems with it. Let's move into the next part, inshallah.
Okay, Sayyid, this is page number 81 from Taqwiyatul Iman now. So it says, असल मुख्तार पैगंबर को समझा और अल्लाह को सिफारिशी, सो ये बात मुहिज गलत है। अल्लाह की शान बहुत बड़ी है, सब अंबिया और औलिया उसके रूबरू एक ज़र्रा नाचीज से भी कमतर हैं। Sayyid Hassan, go with the translation, please.
Okay, sorry, yeah, I'll do it now. Right, okay, so this is from page 81, and the text reads as follows. It means, bear me a second. Nietzsche, sorry, I'm just trying to understand the correct translation of the word. Okay, this is how Allah the Almighty is so great and magnificent that all the prophets and saints do not even measure a particle before him. Correct translation?
Yeah, I believe so.
So imagine that. What's that? You know the last word, Nietzsche. What was the word that you used there, Sayyid, in the Urdu text?
Zarra nachiz. Zarra nachiz means something which doesn't even has an existence.
Exactly. So it's just like a particle. So this is how low prophets have been described in this text. Subhanallah.
By the way, Allah has given this position, actually, assorted position was given by Allah. So he just trying to prove his when Allah has given them.
No, we can't. Sorry, somebody needs to mute the microphone so we can hear Sayyid. Go ahead, Sayyid.
Again, okay, I've said my words. I'm just saying that, you know, they are saying all these words like nachis have no value when Allah has himself given them the authoritative position. So you are actually contradicting your own thing in trying to prove tawheed or in trying to go against the shirk or grave worship or whatever. You're actually contradicting Allah himself when Allah has asserted their position, even the Quran. You have no proof from the hadith and the Quran. You're this is all just opinions. While we have in the Quran authoritative position of the prophets, heaven of Rasulullah, and you're saying that they have no position or no value in sight of Allah. So it's really contradictory and it's laughable too. So should we proceed with page number 92?
Yeah.
Let's go with the...
I should read or Brother Jerry have to read mother?
Sayyid,
I should read on Brother Jerry.
Sorry, Habibi, yeah, go ahead, Sayyid, if you want to read it.
Yeah. Okay, so on page number 92. Okay. On page number 92, he says that जैसा हर गांव का चौधरी, जैसा कि हर काम का चौधरी और गांव का जमींदार, सवा मनुए में हर पैगंबर अपनी उम्मत का सरदार है. Page number 92. Sayyid Ali.
Yeah, I'm going to read that for you. So that pretty much means, it means that one should observe an extreme precaution while praising an elder. One should praise an elder in his capacity as a human being, only or rather curtail the praise whilst one does it. In another sense, it implies a person who receives the instructions of the Lord and then conveys it to others. Okay? This type of sense includes a chieftain or a landlord. According to this sense, each messenger of Allah is the chief of his ummah. Okay? So, I
Now,
mean, Nozabillah, but correct me if I'm wrong here, but what he's saying is, when it comes to any individual who's respectful or praiseworthy, we shouldn't over glorify them. Merely, they are just there to convey.
Just landlords and craftian, just like a landlord. Yeah, you can say that you are in rent, taking a room or apartments of someone, so he's just a landlord of your building. So the Rasulullah was also like that to the Ummah. I don't know. Yeah, that's the meaning, clear meaning of the Urdu text.
Like you might have heard about the Afghan warlords, right, or the landlords, right? So just like someone who had,
you can say the Zamindar system of the British time in India. The people,
like,
the Ummah will be considered like a slaves or servants, and Rasulullah was like a land. By the way, it's not the akhlaq of Rasulullah to treat people like slaves and other things. So you are actually degrading the status and its ethics also and morals of Rasulullah by saying this.
And guys, this word, there are two words that he has used, Chaudhry or Gaon ka Zamindar. The Chaudhry and Zamindar are really negative terms. If you ask any Pakistani,
Chaudhry is just like a gangster.
Yeah, it's more like a gangster kind of a person that are more like a dictator than something else.
Yeah. Thugs, you can say.
They are imposing their will on the people. And Shah Ismail is equating the leadership that Prophet had to more like a warlord kind of a guy, Na'udhu more like a person who is a militia leader, more like a person who is, like with these titles, he is equating this is what Prophet was for this ummah.
Yeah, so, and it's really disrespectful for the ummah as well as Rasulullah, especially Sallallahu. When Rasulullah himself said that إِنَّمَا بَعُثْتُ لِيُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, I have only sent to perfect the morals. He was actually degrading his morals by saying that he was like a gangster or landlord or dictator enforcing his will on people.
Well, could you imagine, Sayyids, could you imagine if in this day and age, I'll give you an example, if Tommy Robinson was to make a speech at Hyde Park and say, oh, well, their Prophet Muhammad, he was nothing but a landlord or a dictator. How would you feel listening to that? So he's nothing, he's nothing. He's just a man that would collect, the same way you collect zakat. He's just like a landlord knocking on people's doors, demanding with menaces. How would you feel about that?
He was like a big brother shoemaker.
And a gangster as well on the side. Astaghfirullah. I don't mean that, I'm just saying if we bring together these texts. So if Tommy Robinson's read something like that at Hyde Park, you should be nodding.
Outrageous. We will kill. It's just like that. And then their own books it is written by their own great scholars. It's total hypocrisy.
Should we say Sheikhana Chaudhry Saab? We'll go to Hyde Park. Let's suppose some of our brothers would say, "Oh, Chaudhry Saab, kaise ho tusi?" Something like this, yeah.
It's really interesting. So shall we proceed?
Yeah. Let's continue.
On page number 59. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So this passage says that और जिसका नाम मोहम्मद या अली है वो किसी चीज का मुख्तार नहीं. Basically means Rasulullah Imam Ali has no authority whatsoever. When the Quran himself says, before you translate, I just want to give my own commentary. When the Quran himself says that the Rasulullah has the authority over the nafs of the mu'mineen. And he said that the name doesn't carry anything, nothing. Okay, proceed with your translation.
Astaghfirullah. So basically, obviously he's addressing those people who do istighatha, who do tawasul, and he's saying that he doesn't even say the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He doesn't even say Ali radiyallahu anhu, as you guys say, or alayhi salam. He just says the one who is known as Muhammad or Ali has no power or authority to do anything at all. Okay, now this is interesting because in theory, the Deobandis praise this book. They obviously respect this individual. And some of the founding fathers relied on this book. But this particular passage where he rejects the idea that anybody who's got the name Muhammad or Ali has no power or authority. Let's go on to the next part. Say, Brad, can you, because this is going to get interesting now. Can you read the next part?
Yeah. Page number 43. उसके दरबार में उनका तो ये हाल है कि जब वो कुछ हुक्म फरमाता है ये सब रोब में आके बेहवास हो जाते हैं और दहशत और other things. I don't want to go further. Means he was trying to say that when Allah has commanded something, they become so much like frightened. Like Allah is, hammering them. It's not like you can translation.
Go with the translation, Sayyid Ali. Go with the translation, please.
Okay. They cannot even utter a word in regards to someone's intercession without the permission of Allah himself, and may acquire nothing for anyone. Once they happen to be in the presence of Allah and hear his command, Allah Azza wa Jal, they become so much instilled with fear that they lose their senses. They lose their senses.
Yeah, so behawaz means actually you're losing your senses. You become like the majnoon, like crazy person.
Tawheed. So if someone says that Rasulullah was out of his senses, it's completely okay for Shah Ismail and Deobandis, right? Like because I have seen a lot of times Deobandis getting out of their senses when they come to Hyde Park.
Yeah.
So they put this passage in case if someone would say, "Why are you speaking like this?" They might just take our big brother Shah Ismail has said that people can get the Prophet can get out of senses. So if we get out of senses, we're just following the prophets, aren't we?
Yeah. Of course, very good point. Very good point.
Well, also, to be honest, in truth, we can't entirely blame Shah Ismail here. At the end of the day, they were on the Prophet's deathbed. They also accused him of being out of his senses. So I assume they're just following that sunnah, aren't they?
Or when he received the first revelation, when he was contemplating committing suicide, or when he was receiving the satanic verses. So So why do you but why do you the way you portray the Prophet? Even what can you say? This is shocking. Anyway, let's go to the next part.
And by the way, there is a narration in Bukhari also that he can be possessed by shaitan and jinn, and he can lose his senses and all those things. So it's just like, wait. Anyway, should I proceed?
Yes, please, Said. Continue.
Page 11. On page 11, he says that मगर ये पुकारना और मन्नतें मानना और नजर नवाज दिलाना और उनको अपना वकील और सिफारती समझना ही उनका कुफर और शिर्क था। सो जो कोई इससे ये मामला करे कि उसको अल्लाह का बंदा और मखलूक ही समझे, सो वो अबू जहल और वो शख्स शिर्क में बराबर।
Wow.
This means Abu Jahl, just like and by the way, it's interesting. We have the narration in Bukhari that Umar was called, or Abdullah bin Umar has called, say, Ya Rasulullah, to pray for the rain and other things. So are you trying to say that Abdullah bin Umar was trying to commit shirk like Abu Jahl?
Okay, let me read this part. He says they also knew that these idols did not possess any of the divine powers, meaning the pagans, but their shirk was represented by calling upon them, making vows to them, presenting offerings to them, sacrifices, and considering them as their intercessors with Allah. This means that whoever called upon someone in a similar treatment, even though by reckoning him to be a slave and creature, such a person is bound to be regarded as a counterpart of Abu Jahl in terms of polytheism, meaning shirk. So I'm sure the viewers have understood that quite clearly. So he's saying irrespective, the pagans, they used to use these idols as a intercessor with Allah, yeah, not separate to Allah, with Allah. And anybody, even if they consider calling upon people and they consider them to be slaves, etc., or a big brother or dust or however you guys want to call it, such a person is bound to be regarded as a counterpart of Abu Jahl in terms of shirk.
Shirk, yeah. Interesting.
Sayyid, the word that they have used is उनको अपना वकील और सिफारिशी समझना. Sifarishi is someone that, taking intercession of Rasulullah. Don't Muslim believe that we would have intercession of Rasulullah day of Qiyamah?
Sayyid, you know what? On this point, he actually attacks. We're not presenting it now, but from this very book, he actually attacks the intercession of the Holy Prophet, and peace and blessings be upon him, on the Day of Judgment. And he even says that even the Prophet doesn't know whether or not that he will be saved on the Day of Judgment.
Yeah, I got you.
And by the way, it's contradicting the Quran also. The Quran says, "Ya ayyuhallazina amanu fattaqullaha wabtaghu ilayhi wasila." Come through the wasila to Allah. So if we make Rasulullah the wasila to reach Allah, then what's the problem? So it's the Quran thing. And he says, and about the intercession, Rasulullah has on the authoritative position of Maqam Mahmud. It's given in Surah Isra.
Yeah.
So it's given in Quran. He has given the position of Maqam Mahmud and the Maqam of intercession. He can be a wasila to us to reach Allah. Then the verse is writing. And he, by the way, saying that all those who call Rasulullah are just actually equivalent in polytheism with Abu Jahl. So all the Sahaba used to call them Jabir bin Abdul Ansari, Abdullah bin Umar, actually was committing polytheism like Abu Jahl.
Okay. So since I want to explain to the next part, which is on the issue of Tawasul, because I just want to touch on it very briefly. So I'm not going to have the Urdu read. Sorry, Hasabari, can you put your microphone on mute, and the brothers put your microphone on mute for a minute. So this is so as you can see, Shah Ismail Dehlawi in his book, not only did he degrade the Holy Prophet to such a low level, but he also attacked the concept of Tawasul, and he said anybody who does this, they're pretty much counterparts to Abu Jahl. So he considered them to be mushriks, or doing shirk at least. So since the Deobandis praised this book, let me present to you a fatwa from the official Deobandi website, which actually talks about Tawasul. So this was a question that was asked on the official Deobandi website. What is wasila? Is it proven from the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, and the Sahaba? How to make prayer with wasila? This was a reply that was given. That a good deed or a person who is liked, accepted in the view of Allah, meaning the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, or the righteous servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, via which the person is making a prayer, makes his prayer accepted, is called a wasila. Number 2, the answer. It's proven from Bukhari and Tirmidhi and other books of hadith, and the explanation books and the books of fiqh and the fatwas have mentioned it. It's explained in detail along with reasons in Fatwa al-Muhammadiyya, Asanul Fatwa, etc. And number 3, the one who's making prayer says, "Oh Allah, I make wasila of my so-and-so act or that great personality, accept my prayer. Even if some words are used, some other words are used, it won't harm it." And this is from Darul Iftar from Deobandi.com website. That's the link. You can always go back. And there's the Urdu of the 3 questions and the answers, which supports the concept of Tawasul from the official webpage, which, by the way, Shah Ismail Dehlawi would probably consider them to be pagan. Shirk, yeah. So this is another question, very, very interesting one, because since he mentioned that a person called Muhammad or Ali cannot do nothing, let's hear what the Deobandi say on the official website. And by the way, inshallah, I want these Deobandi brothers to chant these slogans as well. Hopefully, inshallah, by the end of the show, they'll be shouting out Ya Muhammad, Ya Ali as well. So this is a question. Sir Mufti, you said that it's shirk to ask Hazrat Ali for help. I agree to that. But in scholars of Deoband, in 𝗙𝗢𝗧𝗓𝗦𝗢𝗡𝗦, page number 91 and 90, is written that help is seek from the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, and he is called to remove misery, mushkil kusha. So will you call your scholar mushrik? Here's the reply. These issues are related to intentions and beliefs. Calling the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, or Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, or Sheikh 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗓𝗪 Jilani, with the intention that they will hear us and guide and help us, this is shirk. But if someone is free of this, okay, remember what Shah Ismail Dehlawi said earlier. He said it doesn't matter, even if you consider this person to be like a servant of Allah, etc., etc. This is still shirk, full stop. Yeah, look at this. But if someone is free of this and he calls with intention of love in such a manner which gives the impression of seeking help, then this is not shirk. Like poets call their darlings in love, but they do not have this belief that they are hearing us. Rather, it is their extreme love, as if they presume the one who is absent to be present and act like that. Such poetry, which is related to our ancestors and scholars, it is of this type. In proof, in Qari Tayyib's book, 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗢𝗢𝗧𝗏, etc., etc., he explained the concepts in details and negated this. But in the famous Naat, Nabi Akram Shafi Azam, there are certain sentences which tells us of seeking help. Those who ask questions are usually ignorant, and they call upon them, thinking of them as presenting and seeking help. So reply is given as being mentioned in the question. But if someone is free of that belief and calls them in such a way which gives the impression of seeking help, then it's not included in shirk. And this is from the official Deobandi website. There's a link. There's a fatwa. There's a screenshot of the fatwa. So yes, what do you got?
Brother Ali, brother Sayyid Ali, can I make a request? I have to go for salah, so I just want to make my concluding statement here.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So for the Deobandis, actually, if you go to the Salafis, they actually consider Deobandi, because Deobandi origin is in India, mainly in India, Deoband, and they were considered as Maturidi in beliefs, and fiqh they follow mostly Abu Hanifa. And if you go around in India and Pakistan and see their ridiculous fatwa, even the people who actually Deobandis, they don't believe what nonsense they are saying. The open-minded one I'm talking about. They also consider that these mullahs are really, degrading Islam and, bringing Islam image of Islam bring to such a low level. That's one thing. Second thing is, because we are talking about Tawasul and other things, even Ibn Taymiyyah and the other scholars have narrated stories about asking Rasulullah for help, or Ibn Taymiyyah, even though he attacked in Majmul Fatawa, Tawasul and Istighatha. He has written another book specifically on Tawasul and Istighatha, where he mentioned it. What does he actually mean? What the Istighatha and Tawasul actually means, and we can actually do it. I don't have a time for quoting all that, but these are the things, and it's really contradicting, because I have lived with 3 of Deobandis in 3 semester and have met their Jamaat and all other things. So the way they act, the ethics and the beliefs, it's really, really like means in very soft tone I can say it's very contradicting to what they are accusing other people of.
Okay, so Sayyid Zaidi,
yes.
shall we move on to the next part? Or,
So I'm leaving with brothers, and thanks for inviting me on the show.
Thank you very much, Sayyid.
So shall we move on to the next
part? Sayyid, can I just make one other point, if you don't mind? What Shah Ismael Shaheed has actually done, he's actually issued effectively takfir on his own grandfather, because Shah Waliullah also believed in the concept of tawasul. He had one book which talks about specific du'as. I don't know if we've got the text here, Sayyid. If not, I mean, I could, inshallah, no problem, I can append it if anybody needs to see it. But Sayyid, he actually,
just sorry to cut you. It might just get off my mind. Um, Shah Ismail Shah Waliullah has a book called Al-Intibah fi Salasil Awliya.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah. You carry on, Said. You can clarify this. Yeah. Go
There's
on.
another called Anfasul Arifin.
Yeah.
It's a huge book. I think I was going through it today. It's a really huge book. Not a really huge book, but somewhere around the Farsi edition is roughly around 225 plus pages, and Urdu edition is more than 400 pages.
Okay.
And really around this book, he is asserting whatever the present day Brailvis and some of the Deobandis would assert, right? About the Tawasul, about the power of awliya, about the takwini power of the awliya, about the tasarrufat, about their authority over the creation of Allah. So all these things that you are mentioning is actually there in his books, right? So these are the two really important books, and sometimes he has also mentioned that in Hujjatullah al-Baligha. That's another book that he has. So yeah, inshallah. Should we go
But
ahead?
also, you know, so Sayyid, you know, in that book, Al-Intibah, that one, Fi Salasul al-Awliya, he mentions two du'as. He mentions Du'a Safi and Jawar al-Khamsa. Both of them are supplications which you call the name of Mawla Ali in times of trouble.
Yeah. The way we call
Nadi Ali. Exactly. So
this had been quoted by Shah Waliullah in his book Al-Intibah.
That's the one. That's the one. And that's what amazes me. So Shah Ismael Shaheed Saab has effectively issued takfir on his own grandfather.
Yeah.
Through his pen.
Well,
MashaAllah.
I think the present day ones have been so influenced by Salafis that they've kind of lost the ways of their elderly, you know, naked ancestors.
Yeah.
Because calling next time these sheikhs could turn up with no clothes on.
Fine, inshallah, we can go through it, but they have two faces. One for the Salafi audience and the other one for
There's no Taqiyya going on.
Yeah. So for the Indo-Pak audience, they would say really hard things against Salafis, about Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, about Ibn Taymiyyah, about the Saudis. While they want to get some riyals, then they would have a different face. You know, then they will be in the Taqwiyat al-Iman version.
Yeah.
Yeah, so different versions. It all depends where they're getting more money from. So yeah. So let's
Scholars for dollars.
When they're with Shia, they're against them. When they're hiding away from Shia, then when they're away from Shia, they start reading Nadi Ali.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's right.
Let's go to the next part.
Sadat, let's go to the next thing. About how Ashraf Ali Thanvi and his teacher Imdadullah Muhajir Makki used to do Tawasul from Amir al-Mu'mineen. You know, Tawasul of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the way we say Ya Ali Madad, or like Bihaqi Amir al-Mu'mineen, duas like this. So let's go through it. Let's see if it's really exclusive Shia thing, or is it like they're in their books too. So Allama Ashraf Thanvi in his book Ta'limuddin, it's published by Darul Isha'at, Karachi, page number 177. It says, let me read the full poem. Not the full poem, but the relevant passage. दूर कर दे हिजाब जहल व गफलत मेरे रब, खोल दे दरे इल्म हकीकत मेरे रब, हादी आलम अली मुश्किल कुशा के वास्ते, अली मुश्किल कुशा के वास्ते. So saying Amir al-Mu'mineen
I think this deserves the Ya Ali.
Ya Ali.
Ya Ali.
Ya Ali. So what he says is, the English translation goes as, for the sake of the leader of the universe, Ali, the solver of difficulty, Mushkil Kusha. You know, solve my problems with the wasila of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Mushkil Kusha. You know, they have a banner saying, Kya Mushkil Kusha Allah hai, Amir al-Mu'mineen hai. So then they would quote the ayats, right, that are specifically for Allah. And then they would say, oh, look at it. Only Allah is Mushkil Kusha. And you call Amir al-Mu'mineen as Mushkil Kusha. So now Thanvi Saab has also said
the mushrik.
Thanvi Saab is mushrik now. Yeah, I just need to have one more poster saying Thanvi mushrik and quote this thing, the thing you said. Actually, the problem is not Thanvi.
Imagine Shah Ismail Dehlawi found out about these guys.
Yeah, no, Shah Saab, Sayyid. Yeah. I think the problem is even bigger. If you read Shah Ismail Siratul Mustaqim al Mansab Imamat, I think our really revered Sayyid Hassan will know this.
Yeah.
His Mustaqim and Mansab Imamat is totally against his own book Taqwiyatul Iman.
I know.
What the things he has said in Taqwiyatul Iman and Shirk, he has said same thing about his peer Sayyid Ahmad Brailwi in Sirat Mustaqim. That's a really different topic. I just don't want to go to that tangent. Yeah, but thing is that even Shah Ismail was a really confused personality, right? When he was writing Sirat Mustaqim, he was like a full-fledged Sufi Wasila guy who would believe in Wilayatul Takwini of awliya. And when he was writing Taqwiyat al-Iman, he was more than a regular Salafi would be. Actually, Salafis would affirm Shafa'a for Rasulullah, but this guy even, negated Shafa'a for Rasulullah too.
So he's like almost like a bipolar academic.
Yeah, exactly. But
Okay.
yeah, he would have been in the look. So in this way, he had two personalities. If he would have been in Taqwiyatul Iman mode, that button, if you would press, he'll be in Taqwiyatul Iman mode. With that Taqwiyatul Iman mode, he would have called Ashraf Thanvi a Dajjal and a Mushrik till now, right? So, but as I said, Sayyid, the problem is not problem is not Ashraf Ali Thanvi. Bigger problem is this Pir Murshid, his teacher, Imdadullah Muhajir Makki.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you guys, Imdadullah Muhajir Makki is called Ala Hazrat. Ala Hazrat is usually used for Ahmad Raza Khan Brailwi. So the Brailwi would call Ala Hazrat to Ahmad Raza Khan, and Deobandis would call Ala Hazrat to Haji Imdadullah Muhajir Makki. Haji Imdadullah was a teacher of Rashid Ahmad Gangohi, of Ashraf Thanvi, of different scholars. So he is like a figurehead, father figurehead kind of a person for all Deobandi scholars.
Big brother.
Yeah, big brother, like wo wala bada bhai jitni izzat wala.
Like a shoemaker.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to the next scan, which is from Kulliyat Imdadiya, page number 103, and it's published by Darul Ishad Urdu Bazaar, Karachi. It's page number 103. He says the same thing. दूर कर दिल से हिजाब जहल व गफलत मेरा रब, खोल दे दिल में दरे इल्म हकीकत मेरे अब, हादी आलम अली मुश्किल कुशा के वास्ते. हादी आलम हादी आलम Ali Mushkil Kusha ke waste. So the translation goes as, open the door of knowledge of reality, O my Lord, for the sake of the leader of the universe, Hadi Alam, Ali, the solver of difficulty, Mushkil Kusha. So here you go. This is a bigger problem. Imdadullah Muhajir Makki is a bigger problem. Ashraf Thanvi was one scholar, but Imdadullah Muhajir Makki is teacher of scholars. Like he was a Sheikh al-Mashayikh, as you would say. Yeah. So yeah, Sayyid, let's go ahead with the last one from a different book this time, not from Taqwiyatul Iman, but from Sirat Mustaqim. Go ahead.
I haven't got that one with me. Oh yeah. So let's do you want to read the Urdu, and then we'll come to, so obviously we've discussed the aspect of Tawasul and how Shah Ismail considered all those people who practice it to be pretty much on par to Abu Jahl.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, these individuals would be pretty much on that level as well, according to that principle. They wouldn't be considered Muslim to the very book they praise, ironically. So this is the last quote from Shah Ismail Dehlawi, and this is not from Taqweeyatul Iman. This is from another book of his, and I think this is going to be our final reference for our show. So, Sayyid, can you do the honors of just reading me Urdu, and then I will read the English.
Book name is Sirat Mustaqim, and page number 169 and 170. These are the two pages number, and it's published by Islamic Academy in Lahore. And the translator, so the actual book is in Farsi, is in Persian, and the translator has translated that. So the Urdu text goes as, ज़िना के वस्वे से अपनी बीवी की मुजामियत का ख्याल बेहतर है, और शेख या इन्हीं जैसे और बुजुर्गों की तरफ ख्वार जनाब रिसालत माँ भी हों, अपनी हिम्मत को लगाना अपने बैल और गधे की सूरत में मुस्तगरक होने से ज़्यादा बुरा है, क्योंकि शेख का ख्याल ताज़ीम और बुजुर्गी के साथ इंसान के दिल में चमट जाता है, और बैल और गधे का ख्याल तो ना इस कदर चस्पीदगी होती है और ना ताज़ीम, बल्कि हकीर और ज़िल्लत होता है, और गैर की ताज़ीम और बुजुर्गी जो नमाज में मलहूज़ वो शिर्क की तरफ खींच ले जाती है. So Sayyid, yeah, go ahead with the translation,
So
please.
he says, okay, let's have a look at what he says. Okay, this individual who's so concerned about doing shirk that to the extent that he belittled the Prophet. So he said, Mulvi Ismail Dehlawi said, the thought of having sex with your wife is better than the thought of adultery. And to imagine in prayer one spiritual master or other such saints, even if it is the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, it's worse than to be engrossed in the imagination of one's ox and donkey. Meaning, it's better to think about an ox and a donkey than to commit the sin of committing shirk in your prayers by thinking about the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him. So look at the comparison in this, in the very same pretty much paragraph or whatever you call it, sentence, etc.
This is disgusting, because
this is absolutely, if this is not kufr, if this is not disbelief, wallah, I don't know. If you guys have shame, if you really love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messenger, you would take the streets and you would condemn this individual, this Mulvi Ismail Dehlawi. This is kufr.
Wouldn't they recite Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh?
Exactly.
What would they? Shouldn't they think about Prophet? They should say, oh, Nabi means someone else. Probably Shah Ismail, probably Sayyid Ahmad Brelvi, probably. Yeah. Think about them, not Prophet, yeah?
Yeah.
Or think about a donkey, think about a ox, you know, while they were saying this thing. Yeah. Like, that's so stupid.
Sayyid, listen, whether we are doing even wudu, okay, whether we are performing ablution and we washing ourselves, or even during our prayers, you know, any Muslim during his prayers, as the Sayyid mentioned, Sayyid Zaidi mentioned about the fact about sending darood and salam, it's practically impossible to even complete the namaz without even having the slightest thought of the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, in your salah, right?
Yes, Sayyid.
So even when we perform our wudu, what comes in our mind is how the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, performed his wudu, or how Imam Ali alayhi salam, or Imam Hassan alayhi salam, or Imam Hussein alayhi salam, or the Imams of Ahl al-Bayt alayhi salam, or how they perform salah. No individual can escape having that thought of the Holy Prophet, especially when you mention his name in your salah. And then you're saying that, look, it's better to think about an ox and donkey than to think about the Prophet. Hassan Bahari, are you there? It's gone very quiet. But yeah, I mean, that's just...
Sayyid, the thing is, not even prophets only. You say, Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at the text. It's just shocking. It really is. It really is shocking. When you look at that, such a level of disrespect.
You finish your prayers with a tashahhud and you remember the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings.
Yeah, it's natural.
Yeah. But
of course,
it's okay. You rather think about you know, what did he say? An ox and a donkey?
Yeah. Sayyid, when you start the azan, before you start the prayer, the name of the Prophet said it naturally, your focus is on him. Correct? Yeah. So that's absolutely right. There's no way. There is going to be some focus, something there that he'll come in your mind.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're compared to an ox and a donkey.
Okay, I just want to wrap it up on these 2 points now, and this is interesting. Let's just show you the inconsistencies, and let's actually show you how they themselves have elevated the status of their own scholars to such a high level, as we've known from previous shows, what level they take the scholars on. They even take them on the Maraj as well. But look how they downgrade the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him and his family. Look at this passage. This is a really interesting narration. Well, not narration, it's a passage from their book. And let me read it out for you. Do you want to read the Urdu? Sayyid Zaidi? Sayyid Zaidi, you with us?
Sayyid, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second if you don't mind, Habibi. Just give me
Okay,
1
no
second.
problem. If you want, I can wrap this up.
Just read the text. Just read it.
Let me read the text. Let me read the text. Okay.
Read the English, Sayyid. We just
Okay.
wanting.
So Maulana Abdul Majid was one of the leading students of Ashraf Ali Thanvi. And in his book, Hakim al-Ummah, page number 54, he asked his teacher, Ashraf Ali Thanvi, a question. And look at this question. So he says, the lack of concentration in prayers is an old problem, right? But in my experience, that whenever I imagine you, meaning Tanvi, in my prayers, sorry, somebody's microphone is going off. Can you mute the microphone, please?
Mine's off. Is it?
Yours off. Say this. Oh, he's muted it. So he says, but in my experience, that whenever I imagine you, meaning Tanvi, in his prayers, the problem of concentration vanished. Only for a short while, though. Nevertheless, please advise me if this action is correct, and if it's not, then I should be careful in the future. Look how Tanvi replied. Is correct as long as you do not disclose this to other people. He goes, it's fine. It's okay. You can think of me in your salah. Hey, you know what? You even read my shahada, right? He was probably
Exactly.
who read La ilaha illa Ashraf Ali Thanvi Rasulullah or whatever. He was probably amongst them same students. And he's the same student.
But the weird thing is, this guy's a complete narcissist, because on the one hand he says, don't tell anybody else about this, and then he publishes it in his book.
Hold on, what's this? Is this Taqiyya, isn't it?
Yeah, he's telling him not to disclose it, and then he publishes it in his book.
Sayyid, it actually answers that too, when it's like more like an Ilzami answer when they say that, oh, Shias, you are being commanded by your mom to do taqiyya. Why don't you do taqiyya? So we have a different answer to it, but one of the answer might be this. When your Abdul Majid Deobandi cannot hide it, why should you expect us to hide it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, the book they praise, from their own official website, by the way, not from Shia websites or made up Shia websites. The same book, or well, at least the same author of that book, in his other works, considers the act of thinking about a donkey and an ox better than thinking about the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him. But yet here, ladies and gentlemen, we have an individual who's given pretty much the green light, as long as he doesn't disclose it to other people. It makes you think, though, what other things were not disclosed? I mean, these are things which, obviously, as Hassan Bahari mentioned, he's such a narcissist, and later on, he decided to write in his book. It makes you think if that other lecture, the one we mentioned right at the start about having little boys holding certain parts, body parts, and performing certain acts, whether that actually happened. And maybe these accounts weren't written in the books, and the scholars kept these things hidden from the general public.
Sayyid Shah Sahab, these are the things that they have opened up. And as you said, there might be so many secret things that they haven't opened up, right? Because of shame, because for so many reasons, right? Now, if they can expose such a filth in this manner, so you can expect like what else would be there and would be in their minds, and they haven't put that in the book.
Yeah, it's true. Very good point. If they can think about the scholars like that in such a way, and by the way, we will come to interesting dreams as well, what they used to get up to in their dreams. But let's just finish up. Let's wrap it up, okay?
Yes,
So,
Sayyid.
according to this, right? So we've had the basic summary. Better to think about an ox and a donkey than thinking about the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him. According to Tanvi, it's better to it's fine, it's correct, there's nothing wrong with thinking about him in Salah, okay? And your Salah, by the way, it's not void, because obviously you wouldn't be advising him to do this if your Salah broke, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Unlike the previous passage from Dehlawi, who says that, you know, obviously it's tantamount shirk. But let's show you now to what extent not only did they belittle the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, but let's have a look how they belittle the Holy Quran. So that was the passage that was read. The viewers can always go back and verify that long time. So this is from Sayyid, do you want to read the Arabic first, and then I will read the English?
Sayyid, go ahead with the English.
No, please, I insist. I've got it on the screen, so I want you to read it.
Okay. Yeah, good. 1 second. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yeah, just yeah, now it's better. ولو نظر المصلي إلى المصحف وقرأ منه فسد صلاته لا إلى فرج امرأة بالشهوة. Go ahead, Sayyid.
Okay. So did you want to quickly mention the author?
So it's
from
called
that famous Hanafi book, Shah 𝗙𝗢𝗧𝗜𝗙𝗢𝗙𝗦.
عيون البصائر شرح كتاب. Say just go up again. 1 second. Just go down again. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, apologies.
عيون البصائر شرح كتاب الأشباه والنظائر لمولانا زين العابدين إبراهيم الشهير بابن نجيم المصري رحمه الله.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So he says, if an individual during prayer looks at a copy of the Quran, may peace and blessings be upon it, and reads from it, then his salah becomes void. So if you read a copy of the Quran, so let's just say hypothetically speaking, someone had a copy of the Quran in front of you, or you saw verses of the Holy Quran in front of you, and you read them, your prayer becomes void. But not if he looks at the vagina of a woman with lust. Meaning, you can look at a woman's vagina with lust and your salah can be intact. But if you read the Holy Quran, your salah becomes void. I don't know what to say.
Neither do I.
What should I say? Honestly.
But look at the comparisons. Look at what Shah Ismael Shaheed has written, and look at what his chamche of the later followers are writing here.
Sayyid, this is their. I think this is their salah. Disrespect to Quran and Prophet, and respect for vaginas and other things.
So essentially, they can even read salat in a strip club. Astaghfirullah. What can you say?
Astaghfirullah. Yes.
It's shameful.
That's disgusting. Well, you could be in a nightclub full of naked people.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
So, it's acceptable because after all, you did praise these people. You did seek intercession through them, and they fulfilled your vows. So you could be perhaps in a room full of naked people. You could invite Nangi Mai and all these other people. All these other people there.
Don't forget that the Maulana's Ashraf Ali Thanvi's uncle, right?
Exactly. Uncle Ringo Roses.
You could get him to do your majlis with the little kids running around. And then you could have these naked people. But you know what? But please, don't bring the Quran in, because if somebody reads that, your namaz is going to become void.
Or if you think about the Prophet. You're worse than a donkey.
Wow. I swear to God, these people.
Well, I think that wraps things up for tonight. What do you think, guys?
Yeah.
Let me conclude.
But you know what? Listen, just on a side note, I just want to say, and I sincerely mean this. This is for Deobandi brothers and sisters who are watching. And I know there's definitely Deobandi brothers and sisters watching, because I've been contacted by several. And to be honest with you, as I said before, Many of them were not aware of this stuff, and they did present these passages. I was speaking to one the other day, and they told me they sat down in front of their mum and dad, and they showed them these passages. They didn't even show them the book cover at the time. They just merely showed them the passages, and they said, "Look, these things must have been written by the enemies of Islam." So I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's true." I said, if only they knew that they righteous scholars were the ones that they were actually calling the enemies of Islam. So my advice to you, brothers and sisters, I don't mean to upset you. Everything we've quoted here today is for you guys to go back and look into these passages. And you know what? Maybe we misrepresented it. That could be possible. Then give us an explanation. Give us an explanation to prove that your elders never used to walk around naked and these passages are lies. Give us evidence to prove that these passages that we read about how you respected these books that belittled the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings. Prove to us that these are lies. Or prove to us that the fact that you guys believe that remembering the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, in your salah would invalidate it by looking at a woman's vagina with lust and looking at the verse of the Holy Quran. Looking at the verse of the Holy Quran would break it as well. But of course, you can look at women with vagina with lust, and that's not an issue. It's perfectly acceptable. Seriously, brothers and sisters, think about it. Repent from these. Stay away from these books. These books, they will not benefit you in the afterlife. Learn about Islam. Learn about the pure Islam, the Islam taught by the Ahlul Bayt. And that's it. I just want to pass on.
Thank you very much, Sayyid. Thank you very much, both Sayyid. In fact, all Sayyids that came on tonight's show on the panel. I'm really, really glad that my kids went to bed and didn't stay up to listen to this. I think we're going to have to have warnings next time. I forgot that the content was so X-rated. Apologies in advance, but such is the nature of these discussions. But we do end up having to quote some pretty nasty texts. I hope that you all enjoyed the show. I hope you all found it beneficial. And keep us in your du'as. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Until next time.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.